Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark here, and before we jump into our show, I wanted to share a resource with you that can help you get your podcasting off the ground. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it is 100% free and really easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad to you. So if you want to get started with podcasting and you want to make it as simple as possible, go ahead and visit anchor.fm/start. Now, let's jump into our show. Hey everyone, this is Dr. William Clark for the Dr. William Clark podcast. Glad to be with you again for another episode. Earlier this week, I recorded a long form podcast where we talked about how to overcome your limitations to sell your nonprofit. And in that particular podcast, we focused on the concept of how to position yourself, your skill sets, your abilities to better market your nonprofit as you're going through the fundraising process. And one of the things I discussed in that long form podcast was the idea of keeping an eye on the goals at hand. And a question I get often is, how do I keep my eyes on the goal when really I'm distracted by a number of issues, particularly the pace at which I'm fundraising and what makes it difficult to bring in money faster. So I wanted to address that briefly with you all on this particular podcast and really walk you through some of those thoughts and ideas. Now, I really want to start at the point where you have to realize that fundraising is a marathon, and when you see other organizations coming in and raising dollars rather aggressively for their organization, or they're getting results that are pretty aggressive, or it seems fast paced to you, you have to understand that those dollars, that those revenue sources, that the grant awards aren't things that are coming in like clockwork, by the snap of a finger, although there's an argument to be made for that. In fact, I do want to share this with you, that the results you're seeing from other organizations that may be creating some sense of jealousy within are dollars that have been worked on for quite a long time. And the turning point that you're seeing, the results that you're seeing, are a result of relationships that have been forged over time, people meeting and planning and working together over time, people engaging each other over time. And when the opportunity came for the funds to be released, or a new fiscal year was made available, or the right grant that they've been talking about became available, the award was rather seamless, if you will. And I talk a lot about how that works in my grant writing 101 masterclass. You can just go to mysixfigurefunding.com and you can register for the grant writing 101 masterclass, where I'll walk you through how to position your organization to be the one that receives that grant award that seems to come out of nowhere to the outside person. But in reality, it is a process, it is a grind, and it is something that happens over time. And so while you're trying to stay focused on your goals, you cannot allow yourself to be distracted by the progress or performance of other organizations. In fact, you're not clear. You're not aware of what is going on in their organizations. You're not aware of what they've been doing, who they've been talking to. You may have a glimpse, but you're not really plugged into how that works. And because of that, it just looks like, well, they snap their fingers and they get this funding and they get that funding and they get that state contract, et cetera, while you're over here struggling, trying to put the pieces together, and you're trying to put yourself in position to at least get something. So you have to stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish. Now, when you're doing that, you have to be cognizant of the fact that your goals are tied to a subset of goals. We talk a lot about goal setting, planning, strategy development, action plan development on this podcast show. So look at some of the archives, the playback conversations we've had about stuff like that. But your goals are both long-term and short-term. That means that you have goals that are long-term, 6, 12, 24 months out, 36 months out, and you have goals that are more short-term, like 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, 1 week out. And you have to realize that those goals work, or should work, in tandem. If they do not, then you will find yourself struggling, frustrated, not happy, jealous, angry, fill in the blank with that, whatever word comes to mind. So in order to get past that, you got to keep your eye on the long-term goal. For example, you're trying to raise $1 million in 12 months, but then how does that break down? How much money do you need to raise every month, every quarter, every 6 months in order to get closer to $1 million? In some cases, you may reach $1 million goal in 8 months because you had an aggressive monthly goal. It may take you an exact 12 months to reach it, and in some cases, it may take you longer than 12 months to get that $1 million goal. But it comes down to the small subset of goals or KPIs, key performance indicators, that you are measuring yourself against to keep you focused on the goal at hand. The big goal is $1 million. That's not what you should focus on. You should focus on how much I need to raise this week to get me close to the $1 million. I don't care if I'm just raising $5. If that's what I raise this week, great. Then next week I'm going to focus on trying to raise $100, and the week after that $1,000, and the week after that $10,000, the week after that $100,000. You have to focus on your weekly goals, your monthly goals to get you where you're trying to get to. This is a common practice in all forms of business, but I'm introducing this to all of you as fundraisers, as grant writers, as people who are trying to bring in revenue into your organizations, your nonprofits. If you don't have the subset goals in your focus or in your purview, then you're going to constantly find yourself frustrated. And the goal is to not be frustrated. The goal actually is to be prosperous. The goal is to be focused on the growth of your organization. The goal is to focus on what you're going to do when you get the money. The goal is to focus on how many people you can help. The goal is to focus on how many people can be benefited, how your community can change as a result of these dollars. You should not be focused on what $1 million the other organization got. It doesn't matter. You don't know who they know. You don't know what they're doing, but you need to focus on you and your main goal and the subset goals that feed into that main goal. Now, if you want to learn more about how to do this, there are two things you can do. If you're still on the fence, I invite you to attend our free webinar, How to Triple Fundraising Results Without Chasing Funders. Yes, I talk about this, and I share the 3 secrets. I reveal the 3 secrets that I continually use today to make that happen, how to triple fundraising results without chasing funders. And if you already are convinced and you know that you need to advance your work, you need to take that next step, you want to take that next leap, join us for the Grant Writing 101 Masterclass. It is an online class that I teach, that I provide lessons, I provide guidance, I provide all types of tools and tricks and resources to help you advance your fundraising and your grant writing so that you can build 6-figure programs. You can access both and register for both by going to the following website, my6figurefunding.com. Again, you can visit and register for your Grant Writing 101 Masterclass by going to my6figurefunding.com. This is the Dr. William Clark Podcast, and we'll catch you in the next show. Peace.